The term apocalypse comes from the ancient Greek apokálypsis, which literally means revealing, uncovering, or revelation. Break down into its components, the word results in apo, away from, and kalyptin, to conceal, to veil. Thus, the linguistic root already contains the idea that something previously hidden is brought to light. Originally, this term by no means referred exclusively to catastrophes or the end of the world. Rather, it stood for the uncovering of hidden truths, a process that can occur both in external historical events and in inner spiritual experiences. In today's common usage, however, apocalypse is often associated with images of destruction, chaos, and the end times. Films, books, and news reports speak of apocalyptic conditions when referring to natural disasters, wars, or pandemics. This modern interpretation has its origins primarily in Christian end-time narratives, particularly the Book of Revelation in the New Testament. There, the end of the known world is described in symbolic visions. Heaven and earth pass away, plagues and wars shake humanity, heavenly hosts appear, and finally, a judgment occurs before a new earth and a new heaven emerge. Original meaning, revelation instead of destruction. Today's purely catastrophic interpretation obscures the older, deeper meaning of the term. In the early mystery cults and in Jewish and Christian mysticism, the apocalypse was primarily a spiritual unveiling, a moment of truth in which the invisible becomes visible and the unconscious becomes conscious. In this sense, apocalypse does not mean the end of life, but the end of illusion. In Qabbalah, the Jewish mystical tradition, the apocalypse is understood as an inner process. It is not an external apocalypse, but a transformation of consciousness that leads the individual from a state of separation back to unity with the divine source. This source is referred to in the Qabbalah as Ein Sof, the infinite, without beginning and without end, the eternal reality behind all phenomena. The path back to this source is represented in the symbol of the Tree of Life, 10 spheres, Sephiroth, connected by paths that represent different stages of realization and transformation. In this image, the apocalypse means that the so-called klipot, shells, are broken through. These klipo are mental and emotional blockages, false ideas, or attachments that obscure the light of divine truth. The revelation occurs when these shells fall away and the inner light can shine freely. If you find the topic as exciting as we do, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel. The apocalypse as spiritual initiation. Not only in the Qabbalah, but also in Western mystery traditions, such as Hermeticism, Rosicrucianism, or the esoteric tarot, the apocalypse symbolizes initiation. Initiation literally means initiation and describes the transition to a new level of consciousness. This transition is often experienced as a death of the old self and a rebirth of the new. In the tarot, the card The Tower embodies this process. It depicts a tall tower struck by lightning. People are falling from the windows into the depths. This dramatic scene represents not simply destruction, but the collapse of false structures, thought patterns, beliefs, or ways of life that are no longer in alignment with the truth. The lightning symbolizes the sudden intrusion of a higher insight that leaves no lie untouched. What collapses is not the true self, but only the shell that surrounded it. Historical background: apocalyptic literature. The term apocalypse is also a literary genre. Numerous apocalyptic writings emerged between 200 BC and 200 AD, not only in Christianity, but also in Judaism and other religious movements. These texts often used coded images and visions to convey forbidden or dangerous messages in times of political oppression. This allowed criticism of rulers or social systems to be packaged in a vision of the end of the world without being directly expressed. One example is the Book of Daniel in the Old Testament. It describes symbolic beasts, kingdoms, and a future intervention by God that would restore justice. This imagery was understandable to initiates, but remained enigmatic to outsiders, a form of hidden revelation. Psychological perspective, the apocalypse within. In-depth psychology, especially in C.G. Jung, the apocalypse is understood as an archetype, a collective image inherent in the human psyche. It can appear in dreams or visions when a person stands at a crucial threshold in their life, when the old breaks down and a new phase of life begins. Here, the destruction is not destructive, but purifying, a necessary step toward individuation, that is, the unfolding of one's own wholeness. Conclusion, not an end, but a beginning. In summary, the apocalypse, in its original and esoteric meaning, is not the end of the world, but an awakening. It is the dissolution of illusions, the breaking through of shells, and the recognition of a deeper truth. It marks the end of an old perception and the beginning of a new era, both for the individual and for humanity as a whole. And so the term apocalypse returns to its true meaning, revelation. The revelation of what has always been there, hidden beneath the veils of illusion. We hope you enjoyed the video. We welcome your questions and thoughts. What does the apocalypse mean to you? Leave your ideas in the comments. See you soon here on our channel.